So now what I'm showing is two Word documents. On the left-hand side is a really simple, like Mad Libs fill in the blank template for a moderator's guide. For, you might call it a script. PRA probably would suggest that you're not using a script because you're not going to ask the same questions of every participant. We can talk about PRA some other time. But this is a basic template where we offer up some suggestions about what this document is for, and the name of your usability test and what it is that you're testing, a section that's an overview of the session. And so this is part of the introduction for the participant, and it includes wording around what we're actually testing today and why. It's sort of a screenplay. It has instructions to the moderator as well as specific scripted words that obviously are easily changeable. Our practice had been to ask a couple of questions about the participant. So after the introduction, there's a section that has a heading that introduces basic questions that you might think about asking. Easy to change those in a Word document. And then the moderator's guide moves into a section that would, you would include the tasks that you want participants to do with the thing that you are testing, so you can see how the behavior and the interaction goes. Again, it shows little stage directions for the moderator, and those are in italics with some possible things to observe for, because we realized that people who might be doing their first usability tests ever, even if you've done a couple, you still might not know like what you're looking at. So yay, you get to watch people interact with the thing that you're designing, but like, how do you interpret that qualitative data? So we developed a series of things that someone might look for if, say, they were trying to usability test a form. So for example, and this is included in the moderator's guide, how easily did the participants find the fields for data entry? How easily did the participant find instructions for how to use the materials? What problems did they encounter along the way? Did they make any mistakes or have to correct something that they did? So for folks who do a lot of usability testing, these will seem pretty straightforward, but they're not always things that folks who've never done it before might think of. And then in the guide, we wrap up by including a specific phase around debriefing and making sure that we get final feedback from the participant and thanking them profusely for their time and their participation. So that's one piece. That's a template that comes in the little zip file that you can download in the kit. And the other is a note-taking device, because folks often struggle with the idea of taking like verbatim notes and then trying to figure out what it is they're trying to pull from those. And so I learned a long time ago that if you can shortcut that to focus just on the things that you care about learning from this test, that it makes it a lot easier to take notes. And ideally, you'd have a note taker in addition to someone who's moderating the session, and the note taker can then be focused and concentrate on just the things that you care about learning the most, and not just like every interesting thing that happens. So there's at the top of the note-taking guide, there's, excuse me, a place to capture a name or some identifier of the participant, if you're keeping the participants' names anonymous, some basic information about the user if you want to capture that, in terms of like user profile. And then we just set up a simple grid where it's basically a 2-column table. In the left-hand column, you would put the tasks or the things that you are specifically wanting to track against in this usability test, and then observations on the right. There are lots of ways to make this more sophisticated, but for beginners, it turns out that this is a pretty useful way to start. It stretches out over a couple of pages that include some potential follow-up questions that folks might want to ask, like, how confident do you feel about the experience that you had today, or about using this service or using this form? Along with a thing that I try to get my teams to do, which is for the note taker to pull out right away in a debrief with the moderator and anybody else who might be observing from the team who makes the service that you're testing, to pull out insights right away instead of waiting until you have a cluster of sessions under your belt. And so you can track those across multiple sessions. So those are the kinds of templates that are in the kit. We found these to be super helpful in getting people started, because one of the roadblocks that folks seem to have is like, I don't even know how to start with a script, or like what to take notes on. So we're not suggesting that these should be standard. These are just starting points.